Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Loudguns, and in today's episode we're going to take a look at one of our mining operations. It's an iterative process and we're always trying new stuff out, but I'm hoping that by sharing one of the approaches we're taking at the moment I can maybe help spark a discussion that brings up some cool new ideas. I know that my most popular video is all about how to go about making as much money solo as you can, and many of you might very well be here because of that one. But there's a magic number in the current game, and that's 265,842,469 credits. If you get that in the bank, then you can just buy every single ship currently in the in-game shops. So it's admittedly a big number, and it's going to go up a little bit as new ships enter the stores, but it is finite. So if your goal is just to make money and buy ships, there's a bit of a limit on what you can actually do. So people often ask me why I'd want to go and mine as a group as opposed to going solo, and I guess my first answer is quite simple: it's just more fun. So for me, StarCit is a social experience and has led to me forming a lot of new friendships. So ops provide the scope to take it as seriously or casually as you like, but there's always the space to have a good chat. But it's also really important to remember that the possibilities in Star Citizen as a group are just much broader than the options solo. So game loops are going to get a lot more complex than they are now, and for the industrialists among us, the ones that I'd highlight really are the cargo refactor in 3.18 and shipboard refining, which will probably follow on not too long after that. That's going to let us run full loops of mining to refining to cargo to the point of sale in a single op. For the time being, I think it's really cool to work out ways to efficiently work together, as when these mechanics come in, crews that have already worked together for a while should find it a lot easier to just slot these new mechanics into their existing ops. Another brilliant thing about running mining ops, or any group op for that matter, is it's a great way to get newer players out earning a decent amount of money, even if they don't have as many ships. They can still play a big part in an op, just helping to run somebody else's equipment, and they get a share of the profits. So if you're keen to come and join an active community where we run regular ops like this, then feel free to hit us up on Discord. The link's just down below in the video description. And also, if you're a new player looking to get into the game, when you create an account, just be sure to use somebody's referral code to get some extra starting cash. Doesn't have to be mine, but I'll flash mine up on screen now in case you want to use it. And with all that said, let's start by taking a look at a cool trick we found out about recently, which is the core to this particular strategy. So one of the big time sinks in the current mining and refining loop is getting your ship down on the pad, running inside, getting all the way to the refinery to log your order, and then getting all the way back out again. It's also one of the highest risk moments, so our community nights, for example, have come under attack by particularly griefy quote-unquote pirates, who'll even resort to padramming just to try and stop people enjoying the game. So we found that if you have the owner of the mining ship in the refinery, you can get the job booked very quickly. So the mole comes into range at about 4 to 5 kilometers out, meaning that in an extreme situation you wouldn't ever have to stand still. Personally, I think this can be considered an exploit to some extent, if unloading without landing at all. But I feel it would be intended that the mole can be unloaded as soon as it's on the pad, so that's how I prefer to use it. A quick word of warning if you're going to use this though, the mole won't register that the Quantanium's gone, and it will still count itself as having volatile cargo. So once the job's been logged by the mole owner, you're going to want to make sure the person in the pilot seat ejects the cargo. So just hit the jettison button. If it doesn't work, get in and out of the seat, and that should work for you there. So one issue is that it does create a very boring job for one member of your crew. There's only so much to do around the refinery deck, and just to unload one mole, it doesn't really make much sense. So that's why I've bought 3 moles. Since I can get 3 ships out on one account, I can get 3 moles doing refinery runs, making it more likely that my standing around in the refinery to load and unload, saving 3 lots of people going back and forth, will save more time than having me out in the field operating a laser. Additionally, this is a great role for an op leader, so my good friend Star Destroyer has been working on a really cool op manager tool as part of his SC Org Tools project, and when we get sort of 10 people in an op, we'll tend to have a dedicated op leader. Having a low intensity role like this to perform in game can help if you're keeping track of the rocks that have been found and assigning mining ships to them. We're going to do a feature on SC Org Tools in the future, so just keep an eye out for that. So looking at the ships we're going to use in this operation overall, we've got our 3 Argo moles, which are all on my account. We then have a total of 6 prospectors and 3 light fighters to act as fast scouts. So the gladiuses here are just representative, you can really use anything that you fancy. But we're going to be using a total of 12 crew when we max it out, and we'll take a look at how we use each sort of ship in the operation and how we distribute the crew. So starting with the fast scouts, they're basically the quickest way to find decent clusters of Quantanium, which is what we're after. It's important to prioritise high value finds when you're running a mining op, since you need something that a decent portion of the crew can get their teeth into. As I mentioned in my rock scanning guide, the important thing is the ground that you can cover. More ground, more nodes, more chance to find something good. So since this light fighter can handle it, I'm going to dial my speed up towards 700 to 800 meters per second. You're only going to need to get within about 5 kilometers of nodes before they pop up on the HUD, and you can tell whether it's a single rock or a cluster. We don't want to stop or slow down to inspect anything that's a single rock. We're only interested in the clusters because here on Lyria, those are guaranteed to be Quantanium. You know, sure, one of those solo rocks might be an absolutely amazing Q rock, but we'd have to scan a lot of chaff to find the wheat. Instead, what we're after here is an amount of Quantanium that's enough to call in a decent portion of the team. So I'm going to leave this going in real time just to show how quick this can happen. And bingo. So you'll want to scan the rocks to see that you have something worthwhile, because you know all of these could be 2%ers, that does happen. But assuming you do, you can call in your team. So obviously we don't need everyone here. I'd split the op into 3 squads, each with a mole, 2 prospectors and a scout. When everyone's on site, the mole can land quickly and pick up the scout pilot so they can operate the laser. So you'd have a total of 4 people in this group. If the Quantanium cluster had enough good rocks in it, you might even dedicate 2 squads to it. It's mostly down to whether or not you've got a mole worth of Quantanium to pick up. In this instance, our prospectors are geared for cutting. They have lancet lasers for the instability resistance and charge window buffs, and 2 of them can work together to slice and dice rocks of any size. Modules are very much up to you, and I've been experimenting quite a bit here. I think I'd like the prospectors to run with a mix of Surge, Stampede and Brant to speed up the cutting, but that does involve them maybe having to go back and resupply from time to time. A really big advantage with the prospectors is their manoeuvrability and relative ease of use, no hopping in and out of seats here. And this will let them move around a site and inspect it very quickly. And at some points you'll find rocks with 25 to 35 SCU worth of quant, which wouldn't justify a mole going back and forth, but in these instances you could just extract it with one of the prospectors. The mole, however, is completely geared towards extraction. So we've got a Helix 2 laser which has the highest extraction rate out of any of the lasers to begin with, and then it's stacked with 3 XTR XL modules, which give a combined 150% buff to the extraction rate. The fact that the scout's taken the laser makes it easy for them and the mole pilot to work in tandem and manoeuvre around the site and hoover up the quant. I like to put this laser in one of the side slots, which allows the scout to get to it quicker, and also allows them to jump straight out of the front if the mole hovers close to the deck. The mole can then make the trip back into orbit and over to Arc L1 at the refinery, where I am patiently waiting to pull the job into the refinery. And this just reduces it to 1 person going back and forth each time. You're not taking the whole crew with you. You're leaving most of the crew down on the planet to scout. Just a quick note on personal equipment. Since the changes in 3.15 with inventory and the loss of items, I've seen an awful lot of this noob suiting. So people are fearing the loss of gear so much they're running around with the least they can get away with to avoid any perceived loss. But if you're running a mole with 500,000's worth of Quantanium in it, or worse, doing a run to the TDD in your cargo ship and you get boarded by a pirate, you're probably going to regret not having some armor and a gun. A full set of heavy armor, a shoulder weapon, and some magazines is going to run you for about 10k. So honestly, it's worth just having a few sets in your refinery station. It's just a good habit to get into, I think, ahead of the cargo refactor, when the risk of pirates trying to board you is going to increase dramatically. So ships are notoriously difficult to board, and if you look at all of the industrial and cargo ships, you'll see that they have really good choke points. The odds are stacked heavily in favour of a defender, but that doesn't count for anything if the guy boarding you has a gun and you don't. If you're really adverse to spending any of your hard-earned creds on gear, just run one bunker mission with a box to loot, and you and your buddies are going to have more than enough gear to keep you going for quite some time. The thing I would really recommend absolutely everybody in an op has is a med gun though. We've got the benefit now that death isn't instantaneous, and if every member of your op has just invested those 1,750 credits, that's going to really save you some time in the event of a poorly timed jump out of a mole. Having to have somebody go back to the station, reclaim their ship, get back to you, it's just a bit of a time drag on the op that could just be avoided by just having the right gear. So all in all, this trial run we did turned out to be quite a successful day. We are focusing more on testing the mechanics of using a refinery boss, and as when I do testing for videos like this, I like to hang out with my Patreon supporters. We didn't have particularly strict comms set up, which could have probably increased our efficiency. But this is a big part of why I love multi-crew ops. We had a great chilled out couple of hours during which we more than filled my C2, and we had another couple of millions worth of jobs from smaller Prospector loads, so everyone involved walked away with about 700k to top it off. And that comes back to a point that I made at the start. Some folks might look at that type of payout and think, I could make way more than that solo for a couple of hours. And sure, while I do want to run an org op so efficient that we beat individual solo rates with a multi-crew approach, for the time being we haven't quite managed that. But for the new person coming in with a basic starter pack, that is a ton of credits that they couldn't make alone. As long as that is, I resist the urge to walk into Astro Armada and spend all the money before I distribute it. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and it provided a good bit of insight into how multi-crew mining ops can work. And maybe it's got some of you thinking about how you can work with your mates, or maybe encourage you to go and make some out in the verse. Let me know in the comments how you get on, or if there's something you'd do differently. Over at Frontier, we're always trying to tweak our approaches and test new things, so I'd love to hear what you get up to. If you think I've earned it, it really helps when you smash or tickle those subscribe and like buttons. And word of mouth is really crucial for the channel, so if you think it's worth sharing with your friends, org mates and grandma, then please do. And finally, if you would like to go the extra mile in supporting the channel, we do have a Patreon. And my Patreons tend to be the first people that I hit up when looking for people to help me test new strategies and make new videos. So if that sounds good, then feel free to check that out in the video description as well. But like I always say, sort of just watching videos, liking them, that's more than enough, so don't feel compelled at all. So with all that said, thank you very much for watching all the way to the end, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.